Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon. If you enjoy the videos here, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the Word Balloon YouTube channel, and of course, if you enjoy the audios and the videos, you can subscribe to my Patreon page, patreon.com/wordballoon. Welcome back everybody. It's time for another Harley Quinn review of episode 5, which is Being Harley Quinn. This is John Suntress from the Word Balloon Podcast, and I'm happy to welcome back co-creator of Harley Quinn, Patrick Schumacher. Welcome back, Patrick.
Hey, John. Great to be here.
As promised, different clothes because it's a different episode. So we can get into
Got my
this.
Whataburger hat on.
Yes, indeed. I know we were just talking about that off the air. That's right. Your days as the fry master at Whataburger. Indeed. We start with, where do we start? I'm looking at my notes right now. Harley and the crew are shopping for a new lair and are being led by a real estate agent, which is always a good moment and everything for comedy. It's ironic because years ago, it never actually got written, and it's okay. I mean, I'm not claiming anything saying this, but I actually had a premise for a real estate agent not realizing that they are, selling a house or showing a house that would have been like a Wayne Manor with a secret headquarters of a superhero, and she has no idea what she's showing, but just kind of goes along with all the crazy gadgets and trapdoors that pop up and stuff like that. And it's like, isn't this great? Hey, look at the underground grotto where the bat boat used to be. A swimming pool, everybody. Isn't this fantastic? So that kind of thing. So
we stole that, John.
No, yeah, please.
We found it. We found it in one of your drawers.
In my mind. You used Dr. Psycho to pry this from my brain. So no, honestly,
that is a good idea.
They're very different, but very funny. And honestly, no. If anything, I was really like, "Oh, that's good." I thought it was a good premise too.
Well, I want to read yours.
I'll send you breakdowns. I do have an artist did go so far to break it down for me and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. That's a good idea.
Funny stuff, man. No, it's cool. And again, no lair is good enough, obviously. And again, great Easter eggs. We got a former Mr. Freeze lair and a couple other lairs and stuff.
Yeah, lots of Easter eggs in there. A random Easter egg just for us. It was cathartic. We in the Mr. Freeze one. This wasn't a DC thing. This was a Justin and Pat dead pilot nod. We shot a pilot for the CW, a lot of which took place in a Chuck E. Cheese style kids pizza place with animatronic creatures called Dizzy Squirrels. So that was the nod to the animatronic band that was frozen over in the Mr. Freeze lair was called Dizzy Squirrels. So that was we were like, well, if we can't get a show on the air about it, we're gonna make it a background element in Harley. So that was that, and then Harley. A lot of this first season was about Harley's identity. Who is she now that she's broken off from the Joker? Who is she without being so enmeshed, in his world? And so our real estate agent is kind of trying to get Harley's decisive about where she wants her lair to be, what she wants it to be. The real estate agent keeps pushing, who are you? What represents you? And Harley has this breakdown. And we wanted a way to get it literally inside of her mind, via Dr. Psycho. And so this mental sort of brain freeze, I think Psycho called it a fourth category for brain freeze or something like that, happened. And really, I think a lot of this came from wanting to figure out a way of having someone walk into a group wearing Suicide Squad t-shirts. Yeah. Laying on the ground like they're a suicide cult. The idea for the whole episode may have derived from that, honestly, but yeah. Here we are. Psycho using his powers. We're starting to flesh out what his powers are in the show, and he tells everyone to literally squeeze their butt cheeks together in a circle so they don't shit themselves while he brings everybody's astral selves into Harley's mind, essentially. And then everybody passes out on the floor wearing Suicide Squad shirts, which we just sort of chalk up to this group that keeps trying to get Harley to join. They sent her shirts. It's not interested. The whole crew into the shirt.
Man, James Gunn on line 4, everybody. Hey, I'm trying to do a sequel. What are you doing, man? Don't diss the squad. That was fantastic. Much, I really appreciate it. Much like a joke that happens in the second season. That's kind of an inside joke, and that's cool. And once again, DC upstairs. Yeah, all right, go ahead. No problem. No problems making fun of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, no, they were totally cool with it. And also just, making this statement that like, oh, the Suicide Squad exists, Harley's never been a part of it, that their methodology is a lot more, let's say, humane for trying to get people to join. They send them T-shirts instead of implanting explosives in them. But yeah, maybe Amanda Waller in our world is a lot more woke.
I like
so
it.
I'm actually, it's funny, I'm going back now during quarantine and reading for the first time ever the whole Ostrander run at the behest of I don't know if you know Alan Sepinwall, TV critic, huge Suicide Squad fan. He's been trying to get me to read the whole Ostrander run, and so I'm finally making good on that promise. And
That's excellent, man. John's a friend, and honestly, I think, God, it was one of the exciting books of the 80s. I mean, I've recently talked about it again with Mike Gold because he was the editor. And, I've talked about it for years with John. And it's great. John's an amazing writer because he has these crazy ideas, and he's one of the most mild-mannered, writers. You wouldn't expect these crazy ideas from John. But it's I love it. And, I think the original Suicide Squad run is good. So good on you, man.
Yeah, it's been a fun read. You can really see the inspiration for the David Ayer film in there as well, and it's good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, in our episode, we've got we have Psycho as sort of the tool to get everybody inside of Harley's mind so they can unbreak her. They basically got to go into her. He thinks it's going to be in and out, right? Wham, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. I'm done in 2 minutes, I think is what he says. And he thinks he's just going to go into her brain and pull a lever, and it's easy peasy, right?
Right.
And so, it was, this was a vehicle to get sort of a lot of backstory in there and a lot of Easter eggs with regard to Harley's past and how we want to portray that in our show. Because obviously we've taken a few liberties. I mean, if you're a hardcore Harley reader, her backstory has been told in, numerous ways. Depending on the book that you're reading. And so we thought it was okay to kind of, do our version of it, right? There's no sort of sacrosanct sort of, singular origin story for Harley. And we're going to make this kind of her redo of an origin story. So
I think
her brain.
Yeah. I thought that was great. And also, you've got the classic moment where she dives into the chemicals, but that's the question. Did Joker force her to do it? What was going on? And it doesn't interfere with anything that we've known before in the past. And also, I kind of like how it parallels what we know or don't know about the Joker, and that there's several different reasons that might have been the trigger for the Joker over the years. So I like that Harley's got that kind of same situation.
Yeah, you're right, and it's like everything kind of happened objectively and on the surface, everything you think happened, but what is the real core truth of what happened? And at the end of the day, it is Harley realizing that she was the one who pushed herself in the acid. She jumped. It was of her own volition, which we thought was kind of an important statement to make, given the way that we were taking our version of the character in the show. But I'm already skipping to the end of the episode. But,
but it's cool.
But yeah, it's, we wanted this like romp inside this crazy world, which, of course killed our art team because it's like, we're basically, once again, redesigning the entire show because we're in a completely new environment that have sort of no sound, like logic or physics or that kind of thing. They sort of change up by design. So in one space might be, Harley's Museum of Memories, which seems like this very sort of tame, sort of like almost austere, like museum. And then another level is this sort of carnival that where every game and ride is operated by the Joker. She's still kind of obsessing about him in a certain way. And then you have her subconscious, which we wanted to basically look like, it's looming, it's dark, it's scary, and our Bill Ray, our art director, did these great color backgrounds that sort of had this like Eye of Sauron thing going on. And this was an episode that like visually kept like changing up until the last minute, just because it was so like design wise, like all over the map. Like we had to figure out sort of like, I mean, when I say we, I mean, this was not up to Jester, or the weight of it was not on our shoulders or Dean. It was Jen Coyle and her team, coming through and figuring out a way to make this all cohesive. And this was I think this was the first episode. I mean, it's not the first episode we worked on, but our VFX artist, Gus Juro, who does all of the like After Effects and all the post stuff, he came in and just like completely changed how this episode looked and made it, I think, like really aesthetically pleasing. So that team, I think, like really like elevated this episode in a way like they hadn't sort of. I mean, they elevate every episode, but this was the one where we saw the color footage coming back, and we were kind of like, oh no, this looks like all over the map. And then they were able to like really work miracles with it.
Did you have to rewrite to make anything fit the visuals?
No, it was no. Okay. But like, for instance, like one of the backgrounds originally came in and they actually looked like, in some, like the sky in the carnival scene, right? It literally looked like gray matter, like brain tissue.
Funny.
Yeah, we really, really liked it. I think that was a pitch from Peter Girardi, who helps run Warner Brothers Animation. And on paper, I think we all really liked it. And then it kind of came back, and it was just kind of like, it ended up being a little confusing. And also, like, the brain tissue just didn't quite look right, but that's, like, in the weeds stuff. But but yeah, like so it was this opportunity to kind of like run through all of Harley's memories, and one of the things I was thinking the other day, I was like, there has to be like another example of us getting told no by the powers that be, what we wanted to do. And there was one thing that happened in this episode where Harley, she's opening the doors to the like individual cells and seeing memories. And there's the memory of her dad getting pummeled by some goons on the front yard because he owes a bookie money.
Yep.
And that was sort of a last minute addition, because the earlier stuff, she literally opened it and it was the implication that it was a sex scene. I mean, it was going to be like basically right before a sex scene, but the implication was that Joker used to make Harley dress up like Batman for that stuff. And then it was just like, this is like too icky. I think we got like a little bit of pushback maybe, and from DC, and it wasn't even like absolutely not. They were like, maybe consider. We were like, hey, you're right. That's like, no, we're gonna keep Joker as kind of like most like asexual, like. Okay. So that was the original like weird memory that she walked into. But then we were like, oh, something from her childhood would be better. So we ended up doing that, which then ended up, showing the character design, foreshadowing her parents, who you'll meet in episode 10. So that was one thing, and then of course the Frankie Muniz obsession.
Before you get to Frankie, because I want to mention about when we're in the Museum of Memories and we first see the family portrait, you can't help but notice that Harley's family looks a hell of a lot like the Married with Children family.
Absolutely,
and I love that. That's fantastic. That she could have been Christina Applegate gone wrong. So
exactly. And like, and that image was actually taken, the image that is hung in the museum is taken from our main titles of episode 10. We ended up, we had all that stuff,
oh wow, cool.
designed and everything. And then it was like, when we did make certain changes, or when we were trying to like fill out, the Easter eggs and the backgrounds of all of this like expansive museum,
Yeah.
we're like, okay, what can we take from other episodes and like repurpose, so we're not having to, kill our artists, having to like, do new stuff for every scene. So, yeah, that was one of the ideas, and I thought it worked out. Yeah. So,
That's awesome.
so
But then,
yeah,
yes, the 11-year-old Harleys are kind of the enforcers of her brain and everything, and then but the only way to tame them is their 11-year-old obsession, and that being Frankie Muniz and everything, which is brilliance again. And I'm assuming again that's your casting guy being able to get Frankie.
yeah, that was wild. We never thought that we'd get Frankie wanting to, play himself, but he totally did it. And the funny thing about that was, we got into the booth and we were recording with him, and I'm like, oh, right, he's like a man now. Like, he sounds like a man. And so we ended up having to like pitch up his voice a little bit to sound like younger, Malcolm in the Middle era Frankie.
Agent Cody Banks, Frankie, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that is Frankie Muniz voicing himself.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then the other guest star, who's part of the Psy story, who plays Golda, is Rhea Perlman from Cheers, and of course, yeah. And then through,
great is again we're getting into a little bit of Psy's past, and it happens later on with another episode as well that he was a CIA black ops person, and Golda is one of his Israeli counterparts that he used to be able to handle dirty tricks with, and a cleaner. Obviously, because as far as Psy's concerned, he's got 5 dead bodies there that he's got to get rid of and everything, because he's got to show the lair and Ivy's lair and make it all. Or no, I guess they're in the mall.
Yes, but they're in the mall by the end of.
He takes them to the mall to get rid of them.
Yes. Because this whole thing was reverse engineered. We were like, okay, we know that we want them. We're gonna get them evicted. We want to give them a proper lair, of course, by the end of this episode. Where are they going to get it from? Well, Psy's, he's their landlord. He's like, he's got property. And how are they going to convince Psy to give them this entire dead mall for a song, essentially? Well, they're going to guilt him for trying to burn their bodies by getting rid of the evidence from when they all passed out, presumed dead in Ivy's apartment. So yeah, they end up guilting Psy after he and Golda attempt to burn their bodies in a giant wood fire pizza oven in a mall food court. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. No, absolutely. And again, Harley, as we said earlier, she asserts herself and, kind of rewrites her own origin, which is great. And I just love the insanity of that she kind of becomes Harleen Quinzel again to kind of take over that moment and say, no, this isn't where it happened. It happened at the lair. It happened at the Joker's lair later.
Yeah.
And great stuff, man. Really funny and great action and very fitting for Harley. And again, the underlying thing is her emancipating herself from the Joker in this and everything. So that's cool.
Yeah. This was the first episode written by Adam Stein, one of our writers who stayed with us the entire run. Directed by Juan Mezzoleon, who directed our pilot. Ended up directing a bunch of these episodes, but he was a guy who came. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing this for years and years and years. But prior to us, he came from the Rick and Morty world, and I mean, given that sort of the mind fuckery that's happening in the episode, and given the environments and all of that, feeling like Rick and Morty-esque. Juan, felt like the perfect guy for the episode. So,
no, honestly, man, great parody of being John Malkovich, and obviously, you hit us over the head with that, but that's okay. I think that's fantastic. And again, great idea. And as you say, they come out of it okay, and they wake up and to pay back Cy for almost killing him and stuff. Fine, we're gonna get the lair. We're gonna get them all to be our lair and everything. So now we got the new base of operations. So
yeah, you got a crew, you got a lair. You don't have a nemesis per se, but that worked out.
Well, she's lurking, and we'll get into that obviously coming up. But yeah, honestly, funny stuff. Great episode, man. And yeah, that's all I have. Any other stories before we wrap up on episode 5 here?
No, let's jump into 6.
All right, fair enough. Well, that'll be next time as we cut these up into bite-sized pieces for you to consume. No matter how, if you're DVRing the show and then coming and watching the rewatches, or on Word Balloon on the audio, I am putting these out as one big hunk every week, much like the way Sci-Fi is initially going to be showing this. I assume after this initial run, they probably will go episodic and go to a more one a day, or one a week schedule.
I think they're doing it's 4-3-3-3.
Yep.
Yes.
And then is that it? And then is it going to bounce back to? Do you know more? Because I know they've divulged a little bit more about HBO Max and what's going to wind up there. I don't know if Harley's going to wind up there or not.
Said.
Pardon me?
I don't know what's been publicly said yet.
Okay.
So I don't know that I can comment on that.
Fair enough, man.
I will say, still no word on season 3.
Okay.
But with regards to a home for second window, there's some good news.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good, man. No,
I
that's
think
great.
That's all I can say. But the show will exist in perpetuity, hopefully on DC Universe, but then also additionally elsewhere.
Okay, that's great to hear. And man, I'll tell you, I think I hope this is okay to say, and if not, I'll snip it. But you told me that it was the second highest rated show on Sci-Fi last Sunday.
Yeah, that's what we heard. Like primetime included, and so we were super psyched about that. I think it did really well on Sci-Fi. So yeah, I think a lot more people saw it, and I noticed on Twitter, anecdotally, that there were a decent amount of people that were like, what is this show? I've never, I was flipping around, happened to land on this, and so that's amazing.
Absolutely,
people are still able to discover it.
Hey man, you're up against some tough competition. You got the Bulls documentary happening on ESPN, which I think is getting a lot of eyeballs, and new Rick and Morty. So yeah, man, tough competition. So that's terrific. And again, I think that's great. And I'm glad we're doing this. And we'll move on to the next episode 6. But episode 5 was fantastic, man. And again, people should be checking it out. And I hope everyone's setting their DVRs each week to capture these, if this is how you're watching it for the first time. And I know DC Universe people were way behind. Everyone, we're mid-season on season 2. And we'll do a future Word Balloon conversation about season 2 and everything. But thanks, man, as always. And looking forward to talking about episode 6 when we get together next time.
See you next time.
Thanks again for watching another Word Balloon video. We've got plenty more at our channel, Word Balloon. If you enjoyed it, please like it and consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, support me on Patreon, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thanks a lot for watching.